Hello, what we're going to be doing in the next few videos is we're going to go ahead and design a class, and then we're going to go ahead and create another class that will go ahead and test the class that we've designed. So what we're going to do is we're going to design a class named fan to represent a fan. The class contains the following instance variables: a string variable named speed that specifies the speed of the fan. The possible values are slow, medium, or fast. A Boolean variable named on that specifies whether the fan is on. A double variable named radius that specifies the radius of the fan. A string variable named color that specifies the color of the fan. The methods that we're going to include in our fan class are the accessor and mutator methods for all four of our data fields. The names of the accessor methods must be get speed, is on, get radius, and get color. And the names of the mutator methods must be set speed, set on, set radius, and set color. And then within our test program, we're going to write a separate test program named fan test that creates two fan objects. We're going to assign maximum speed, radius of 10, color yellow, and turn it on to the first object, and then set the speed to medium, the radius 5, the color blue, and turn it off for the second fan object. So let's go ahead and get started. So we want to make sure and go into JGrasp, and what I'm going to do, I'm under a directory called videos, so I'll just click on File, New Java. And then I will just go ahead and specify my class declaration. It's going to be called a fan. And I'll put my opening and then my closing curly brace. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to make sure and create our instance variables. So what we're going to do here is the instance variables names are speed, on, radius, and color. And 99% of the time when you create instance variables within a class, you want to specify them as private. That way, no class outside of your fan class can access those variables and change those variables. So in order to specify something as private, you need to include private as the first word in your variable declaration. So we'll go ahead and declare private, and then the type of variable, which is string, and then speed. If you do not specify private, then what happens is the variable defaults to public, and like I mentioned, 99.9% of the time your variable should be declared, instance variables within a class should be declared as private. If you declare them as public when you're creating classes, I will deduct points. So the next one is going to be a Boolean, so it'll be private Boolean and then on. And then we'll go ahead and create our private double, and that'll be for our radius of the fan. And then finally private string, and that will be for the color of the fan. So we've gone ahead and we've defined our instance variables. So what we need to do in this class next is we need to go ahead and declare the various methods that we're going to be using. So what we're going to be declaring is just the accessor and mutator methods. So when you're using an accessor method, basically that allows other classes to access that variable and get the value of that variable. A mutator method allows the user of the class to go ahead and change the value of that variable. So what we're going to do next is we need to go ahead and define our method. We want to specifically define them as public. This is the only way that a user, when your variables are declared as private, that they can both access those variables and change those variables. So we'll declare private string, and then we'll specify get speed, and we'll go ahead and add our opening and curly braces. So what we have on line 8 is a method signature, and basically what the method signature consists of is the access, if it's public, private, protected. Then since we are going to be returning a value, we need to specify the return value. In this case, we're going to be returning a string, so that's why we've specified string. If you look at our speed variable, instance variable up above, it is a string variable. So that return type must match the type of the actual instance variable. And then after that, we have our method call or method name, which is get speed. And since the user's not going to be passing in any arguments when they call the method, we have the opening and closing curly braces. So on the get speed or accessor methods, all you're going to do is you're just going to return the instance variable, in this case speed, back to the implementer of your class. So that is our first method. The other way you can remember accessor methods are getter methods, and mutator methods are also called setter methods. So we've defined our get method. So now what we need to define for our get speed is our set method. So since we will not be returning a value, the return type is set to void. Again, it must be public. And then we'll go ahead and specify set speed. And in order to set the speed, the user needs to pass in the speed at which they want the fan set to. So again, our instance variable speed is a string variable, so the type passed in to set that variable must be a string. So we'll call it new speed. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and add my opening and closing curly braces. And what we're going to do next is we're going to set our speed equal to the value that's passed in, which is new speed. Okay, so that is our get method and our set method for our instance variable speed. So what we need to do is we need to create the accessor and mutator methods for the next 3 instance variables. What I'll do is I am going to go ahead and pause the video and create those, and then after I've created them, we can talk about them. Okay, I've gone through and added the rest of the mutator and accessor methods. So the next one that we're going to look at is on. So basically what that'll do is that'll return a Boolean value, or true or false, depending upon if the fan is on or off. Set on, the user implementer of the class would pass in either true or false, and we would go ahead and set on equal to that value. Get radius, what that'll do is that'll return our radius. Again, the radius value is a double, so it must return a double. The next one is set radius, so that is the mutator method, or our setter method for our radius. And what will get passed in is the argument of our radius value, and then we would just go ahead and set it equal to our instance variable radius. And then finally we have our get color and our set color. So our color is a string, so basically we would return a string data type. And then finally, when the user or implementer of the program needs to set the value, they would pass in a string. And what we would do is we would just go ahead and set our instance variable color equals to the value that's passed in when the implementer calls our setColor method. So the next thing we need to do is we need to go in and actually add some comments to describe what the class is, what the class does, and what each of our methods do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pause the video, add those comments, and we can talk briefly about those comments after I've added them. Okay, so what I've done is I've gone through and I've added some comments to our fan class. So basically, when you create a class, you should specify what the class actually does. So this program creates a fan object. And then I've added a comment to let the user know that the following 4 items are the instance variables for my fan class. And then what I've done is I've just specified a short blurb about what each one of the methods does. So the first one, the method that returns the fan speed, method that sets the fan speed, and then so on and so forth. Method that returns if the fan is on or off, and method that turns the fan on or off. Method that returns the fan's radius, and method that sets the fan's radius. And then finally, method that returns the fan's color, and method that sets the fan's color. So when you're going to be creating your classes, you must go in and add comments for each one of your methods that are included in your class. And then also you need to go in and add a comment specifying exactly what your class does. So what I need to do next is I need to go ahead and actually compile this program. So I'll go ahead and click on Compile File, and I need to save it. I'll go ahead and save it as fan.java. Click on Save, and now it's compiled successfully. I don't have any compile errors. If I attempt to run this program right now, it will not run, and the main reason is because there is no main method defined in our class. So when we're going to be creating classes, we will not be defining a main method in the class itself. We will be developing a class that will test the class, and that test class will contain the main methods. So you'll want to make sure and remember that your class should just contain the information related to the class itself, and you should create a separate test class that will go ahead and implement a main method that will go ahead and create the objects and call each one of the get and set methods. And that's what we're going to be covering in the next video. Is we're going to walk through and we're going to create a test class for our fan objects. So I will be talking to you in a couple minutes.